I swear I wasn't trying to eavesdrop on him through the wall or anything like that. Our apartment is just old, thin-walled, and noisy in all the wrong ways. But that night, the silence was weird. Too still, too heavy. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like something's about to happen, even if you don't know what. I'd gone to bed early, exhausted from a long shift at work and a brutal week of classes. My body felt drained, but my mind wouldn't stop running loops. Mostly about him, Evan, my roommate. My very straight, very comfortable in his own skin, very accidentally too charming roommate. The guy had no idea what he did to people. Least of all me. We weren't best friends or anything. Just normal roommates who split groceries and occasionally cooked dinner together when our schedules lined up. But the more time we spent together, the harder it became to pretend I didn't notice how he laughed with his whole chest, or how he'd walk around our place shirtless after the gym like it was the most natural thing in the world. He had no idea how close to death I came every time he reached for something in the kitchen, and his sweat-damp shirt lifted just a little too high. But still, nothing had ever happened. Nothing ever would happen. Evan was the kind of guy who dated girls who looked like they'd stepped out of a fitness brand photo shoot. He'd never given me a reason to think he saw me as anything other than his roommate who paid rent on time and made good coffee. So that night, when the apartment was too quiet, I told myself it was nothing. I rolled onto my side, pulled the blankets up, and closed my eyes. At some point, I must have drifted into that half-sleep where everything feels foggy, but you're still vaguely aware of the room around you. I remember shifting my leg, turning my head into the pillow, and letting out a sleepy sigh. Then the mattress dipped. At first, I thought I imagined it. You know that weird dream feeling where your brain inserts real sensations into fake scenarios? Thought it was that. But then there was the warmth. A body. Definitely a body, settling onto the very edge of my bed. Slowly. Carefully, like trying not to wake me. My breath froze. My first stupid thought was, maybe I'm still dreaming. My second thought was, no way, this is real. And my third thought, the one I definitely shouldn't have had, was why does this feel familiar? I kept my breathing slow and steady, pretending to be asleep even as my heart thrashed in my chest. I didn't move, didn't even twitch. Evan didn't say anything. The room stayed pitch black. All I heard was his breathing, quiet, shaky, like he wasn't sure what he was doing either. Then I felt his hand, not grabbing me, not bold, just hovering above the blanket near my hip. I could feel the warmth of it through the fabric. My entire body went rigid. He stayed there for a long moment, like he was working up the courage to do something or convincing himself not to. The air felt thick enough to choke on. Then his fingers brushed me. Just the lightest touch. Barely there. My eyes stayed shut, even as every nerve in my body came alive. I heard him inhale sharply, like he hadn't meant to actually touch me, or like doing it made something inside him snap. He shifted closer. The bed creaked softly. His knee nudged the mattress near my thigh. I could feel him now. His heat, his breath, his hesitation. And then he whispered, barely audible, like a confession not meant for anyone to hear. I'm sorry. For what? For being here? For touching me? For wanting something he wasn't supposed to want? Before I could figure it out. Before my brain could do anything but buzz with disbelief. He moved again. Slower this time. More deliberate. I felt the blanket lift. And Evan, my straight roommate, started climbing fully into my bed. I kept my eyes closed. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to know what he'd do if he thought I wasn't awake. Maybe because I couldn't handle the truth if this was some kind of mistake. Or maybe because a part of me wanted this more than I'd ever admit out loud. He slid in behind me, careful, almost timid. His chest hovered inches from my back. His breathing was uneven now, shaky, uncertain. Then I felt his hand again, this time on my waist, resting there, gentle, almost protective, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he held me too tightly. My entire body lit up with heat. I should have turned around. I should have said something. I should have done anything other than lie there pretending to be asleep. But instead, I stayed perfectly still and waited to see what he'd do next. And what he did changed everything. For a few seconds, long, breathless seconds, Evan didn't move. His hand just stayed on my waist, warm through the fabric of my shirt, unmoving but very much there. He wasn't asleep, not with the way his fingers twitched lightly like he was testing whether he had the right to stay where he was, not with the way his breath hit the back of my neck, uneven, nervous. I kept my breathing slow, steady, as if I was deep asleep. Inside I was anything but. Then he shifted. Not a lot, just enough for his chest to brush my back. The soft contact sent a rush straight through me. I felt him hesitate, like he expected me to roll over or push him away. I didn't, and that seemed to be enough permission. His hand tightened just slightly on my waist, a quiet, scared sort of grip like he was clinging to something fragile. His face moved closer, the warmth from his breath spreading across my neck. He whispered my name. Quiet, careful, like it meant something. Liam. Hearing him say my name in that voice nearly made me gasp. I barely held it together. He swallowed, the sound small but heavy in the dark. I needed to be close to someone tonight. His thumb grazed my shirt. A simple movement, but intimate enough to make my pulse throb in my throat. I know this is weird, he murmured softly, and I shouldn't be here. I know that. His forehead pressed gently between my shoulder blades. But I couldn't stop thinking about you. My heart slammed so hard I thought the mattress might shake. He continued, before I could even process it. You're the only person who makes this place feel safe. Something in his voice cracked. He sounded nothing like the confident guy who walked around shirtless and joked with everyone at the gym. This version of Evan was smaller, vulnerable, carrying something he'd been holding in far too long. And even though I was pretending to sleep, every word hit me like a punch. He exhaled shakily, his fingers brushing under the hem of my shirt accidentally. And then he froze. I thought he'd pull away, panic, bolt out of the room, something. But instead, he let his hand rest there. Warm skin, meeting warm skin. My entire body buzzed. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispered. I just know I wanted to be close to you, even if you never know I was here. My throat clenched, my chest tightened. He thought I wouldn't know. He thought I'd stay asleep forever. He thought this moment would just disappear into the night. His hand moved again, higher this time. Fingers tracing lightly up my side like he was memorizing me through touch alone. He pulled himself closer until his forehead rested at the back of my neck. Then, as if gravity took over, his arms settled fully around me. Evan, my straight roommate, was now spooning me. Slowly, hesitantly, like he was scared of crossing a line but even more scared of letting go. His chest pressed to my back. His legs tangled with mine. His thumb brushed my skin again, slow and gentle, testing boundaries I wasn't stopping him from pushing. And then I felt it. A subtle, warm pressure against my lower back. My breath nearly stuttered, but I held it. He stiffened instantly, a soft curse escaping his mouth. Shit! He pulled his hips back just an inch, embarrassed, mortified. Probably, but the damage, or the truth, was already there. I felt something deep inside me shift. Evan froze behind me, breathing hard, like he couldn't decide whether to run out of the room or lean in further. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, in a trembling whisper, he said it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. Another pause. I can't stop thinking about you lately, more than I should. My heart thundered so loud I was sure he heard it. He sighed, his voice small. I shouldn't want this. But the way he held me, the way his fingers tightened just slightly, told me he absolutely did. And in that dark, breathless moment, with him wrapped around me and thinking I was fast asleep, I realized something. This wasn't just a mistake for him. This was something he'd been fighting for a while. Evan didn't move for a long time. His arms stayed around my waist, his forehead resting lightly against the back of my neck, his breath warm and uneven. Every rise and fall of his chest pressed gently into my back. He was trying so hard not to shake, trying to breathe quietly, trying not to give away how messed up he felt. But he already had. He'd said he wanted to be close to me. He'd said he'd been thinking about me. And that slip, his body reacting to mine, had told me more than any whisper could. I kept still, kept playing the part, even though every muscle in me screamed to turn around and look at him, to tell him I was awake, to ask him why, to ask him what he wanted. But something stopped me. Maybe he needed this moment where he could be vulnerable without the fear of being seen. Maybe I needed to understand what he'd do next if he thought there were no consequences. Evan shifted slightly, not away, closer. His nose brushed the back of my shoulder like he was trying to hide in me. He exhaled deeply, a shaky breath that sounded like he'd been holding it in for years. "I don't get it," he whispered into the dark. "I don't get why I feel this way." Those words hit me harder than anything he'd said so far. He wasn't just confused. He was conflicted. His fingers traced a small, barely there line along my stomach. Featherlight, careful. The kind of touch someone uses when they're terrified of breaking something fragile. "I shouldn't want to be here," he breathed, "but I do. So much." I felt his forehead nudge between my shoulders again, like he was leaning into the truth he'd finally let out. He swallowed audibly. "When you laugh in the kitchen, when you walk past me and your shirt rides up a little, when you fall asleep on the couch after work and you're all curled up." He sucked in a breath, embarrassed by his own honesty. "I hate how much I think about it." My chest tightened painfully. He was confessing things he'd never say awake, things he probably hadn't even admitted to himself. His hand slid just a little lower. Still innocent, still careful, but intimate in a way that made my skin prickle everywhere. "I'm losing my mind," he whispered, almost like he wished the words would dissolve into the air. "Every day I tell myself it's nothing, that I'm imagining it, that I shouldn't be looking at you like that." I could feel his heartbeat in the space between us. Fast, anxious, real. "But then you smile, or you brush past me, or you fall asleep on the couch again, and I notice the way your lips part just a little, and I—" He stopped, shaking his head against me. "God, what am I doing?" He tightened his arm around my waist by reflex, pulling me closer for just a second before he realized what he'd done and froze. "I'm sorry," he whispered again, but this time it wasn't about his body betraying him. It was about wanting something he wasn't supposed to want, something he didn't know if he had the right to want. He pressed his forehead to my shoulder harder, like he was trying to steady himself. "I just needed to feel you, even if it's only for a minute, even if you never know." My breath caught in my chest, but I kept it steady enough to sound asleep. Barely. Then he did something that cracked my resolve in half. He touched my hand, slowly, gently, like he was testing fate itself. His fingers brushed over my knuckles, hesitant at first. Then, bolder, he let his fingertips rest lightly on top of mine. His thumb brushed my skin, a soft, trembling stroke. He wanted to hold my hand. I felt him shift behind me, inching even closer until his body aligned with mine. His breath hitched. His leg brushed mine under the blankets. Then I felt his lips, not kissing, just resting against the back of my shoulder, like he couldn't stop himself from getting just a little closer. His voice broke on the next whisper. "Why does it feel so good to be near you?" My chest tightened so hard it almost hurt. And then he said the one thing I never expected to hear him say, not even in the dark, not even whispered into someone pretending to sleep. "I think I'm falling for you." My breath nearly betrayed me. His grip on my waist tightened instinctively, like he'd just confessed something dangerous and needed something to hold on to. He exhaled shakily, his lips still brushing my skin. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But his arm didn't move. He didn't pull away. If anything, he held me just a little bit closer. For a moment, one impossibly long, fragile moment, everything in the room felt suspended. His confession hung in the air, raw and trembling, like something he'd been choking on for months. I didn't move. I couldn't. If I even twitched, he might pull away, panic, shut down, pretend this never happened. So I stayed perfectly still. Evan stayed pressed against my back, his arm around my waist, his breath shaky and warm against my shoulder. I felt him inhale deeply, like he was trying to pull the words back into his chest, like he wished he could undo what he'd just let slip. He whispered again, barely audible. I don't even know what this means. His thumb brushed my hip, slow, unconscious, full of nerves. Not sexual, not playful, just wanting connection. He swallowed hard. I'm straight, he whispered, as if he were trying to convince himself. I've always been. He paused. So why does being here feel so... He stopped himself, then quietly finished. Right? My chest clenched. I could feel his internal battle in every small tremor of his fingers. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't sleepwalking. He wasn't accidentally here. Every piece of this moment was intentional. He shifted slightly, his knee brushing the back of my leg. His chest pressed more fully into my spine, as if instinct was pulling him closer no matter how confused his mind was. Then he let out a small, broken laugh, one without humor. You'd freak out if you knew I was here, he murmured. You'd probably never look at me the same. If only he knew. His fingers grazed under the fabric of my shirt again, warmer now, lingering longer than before. His touch burned, soft, tentative, full of questions he didn't know how to ask. And then he said something quieter than anything so far. Something scared. I just didn't want to be alone tonight. His voice cracked. I didn't want to lie awake thinking about you again. My heart thrashed so violently I thought he'd feel it. He squeezed my waist gently, the kind of hold someone gives when they're afraid the moment will slip through their fingers. You make it so damn hard, he breathed. You don't even realize it. His nose brushed the back of my neck, just a graze, soft, accidental, but it stole every ounce of air from my lungs. I keep telling myself to stop noticing you, he whispered. But then you smile at me in the morning, even when you're tired, or you fall asleep on the couch after work and look so peaceful. His breath shook again. I don't want to feel this way, I really don't. He pressed his forehead to my shoulder harder, like he needed the contact to stay grounded. But I can't stop. The bed creaked as he shifted even closer, molding himself against me. His arm slid slightly higher across my stomach, holding me in a way that felt protective, possessive even. He hesitated for a heartbeat. Then his thumb stroked across my skin again, this time more surely. And then he exhaled shakily and whispered, almost like a frightened confession he'd never say in daylight. I wish you'd turn around. My breath stuttered, but I kept it silent. He didn't notice. He continued, whispering into my shoulder like the dark room was the only place he could be honest. I know you're asleep. I know you can't hear me. But I just wish... He hesitated. I wish I could see your face right now. His hand slid up my chest, slow, trembling, until his palm rested over my heart. He let out a soft gasp. God, it's beating so fast. He paused, confused. Why is it so fast? Panic flared through me. Had he figured it out? Had I breathed wrong? Shifted wrong? His hand stayed there, unmoving, feeling my heartbeat race against his palm. Is it the dream you're having? He whispered. I almost choked on relief. He let out a small breath, his lips brushing my shoulder again. Lucky dream, he murmured. I swallowed my gasp so hard it hurt. Then he whispered the words that shattered me. I wish it was about me. He held me tighter, not accidentally, not cautiously, but with intention. A full embrace. His chest pressed firmly to my back, his legs tangled with mine. His nose nestled into the crook of my neck like he belonged there. Like this was where he wanted to be. He sighed. Deep, content. And the moment he relaxed, really relaxed, I realized something. This wasn't temporary comfort. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't drunken impulse. He wanted me. Maybe he didn't understand what that meant for him. Maybe he wasn't ready to say it out loud. But his body told the truth he couldn't yet face. And the second I let myself accept that truth, my entire world shifted. Evan didn't move for a long time after that. His breath slowed, his arms stayed firmly around me, and he settled into the shape of my body like he'd been waiting for this moment without ever admitting it to himself. His hold wasn't hesitant anymore. It wasn't shy or accidental. It was sure. Like now that the words were out, now that he'd whispered all the things he'd been afraid to say, he finally let himself relax into the truth of them. I felt his fingers slide just a little lower on my stomach, tracing the soft rise and fall of my breathing, as if he were trying to memorize it. His thumb brushed slowly against my skin, small movements, barely there, almost reverent. He exhaled into the back of my neck, and the warmth of it sent a shiver racing down my spine. For the first time since he climbed into my bed, Evan sounded almost calm. Not fully. His heartbeat was still fast against my back, but calmer than before, like he'd exhaled months' worth of tension in one night. But then he spoke again, quietly, like a confession he wasn't ready for the world to hear. "I don't know what to do with this." His fingers tightened for a second before relaxing again. "With you." The words hit me so hard I nearly forgot to stay still. He continued, voice low and shaky. "I keep trying to shut it off. Every damn day I tell myself it's nothing. That I'm just confused, lonely, whatever excuse I can come up with." He let out a breath warm against my shoulder, but the more I try to ignore it, the stronger it gets. His hand slid higher up my chest, fingers spreading slightly, like he wanted to feel as much of me as possible. His palm rested over my heart again. He paused. "It's beating even faster now," he whispered. I squeezed my eyes shut even tighter, willing myself not to move. "Must be some dream," he murmured with a soft, almost sad laugh. His fingers brushed slowly along the edge of my ribs. Every movement made my breath catch, though I did everything in my power not to let it show. "I wish I could see what you look like right now," he whispered. "Your face always softens when you sleep." He shifted closer, the bed dipping under his weight, his thigh brushing mine in a way that felt intentional now. Familiar. Like he'd been thinking about this exact closeness for a long time. I felt his nose nuzzle into my shoulder again, lingering there. He inhaled deeply like he was trying to memorize my scent. "You always smell good," he whispered. "I never tell you that." My pulse hammered so loudly against his palm I was shocked he didn't question it again. He sighed, the sound heavy, full of 1,000 tangled thoughts he didn't know how to verbalize. "You make everything feel easier," he said softly. "Even when I've had a shitty day, just hearing you laugh in the kitchen makes me feel like I'm home." My chest tightened painfully. He hesitated, then whispered the words that nearly broke me. "I didn't climb into your bed because I was lonely." His arm tightened around me, pulling me even closer. "I climbed in because I miss you, even when you're in the next room." His breath hitched, just once. "That's messed up, right?" He let out a frustrated sigh, pressing his forehead to my back like he couldn't decide whether to run or melt into me completely. "I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm allowed to feel." Another pause. "But I know I want you here." His hand moved from my chest to my stomach again, slow and deliberate, fingers tracing patterns that felt like questions. Then he whispered the words that made my breath catch in my throat. "I wish you'd hold me back." His voice was barely a breath. "I wish I had the courage to ask you while you were awake." He shifted again, and this time his body pressed fully into mine. No distance left. His knee slid between mine slightly, just enough to make my entire body light up. He breathed out my name, quiet, vulnerable, almost pleading. "Liam, God." Hearing him say my name like that almost broke my resolve. He nuzzled the back of my neck. "I just want to stay like this," he whispered. "Just for tonight." His fingers splayed across my stomach again, holding me gently but securely, as though afraid I'd slip away at any second. "I don't want to think about what it means," he breathed. "Not right now." He pulled me even closer, chest pressed to my back, his lips brushing the top of my spine. "I just want you," my heart stuttered. He froze, not pulling away, but listening. Then, "Why did your heartbeat just jump?" My entire body went rigid. He lifted his head slightly from my shoulder. "Liam?" Every nerve in my body screamed. Then, in a soft, confused voice, barely louder than a breath, "Are you awake?" For a split second, everything inside me stopped. My heartbeat, my breath, my thoughts. Silence filled the room so completely that even the soft hum of the refrigerator down the hall felt painfully loud. Evan didn't move. He stayed behind me, his arms still around my waist, his chest still pressed into my back. But he'd gone rigid, like every muscle in him snapped tight all at once. "Liam?" he whispered again, barely audible. I kept perfectly still. I don't know how. My heartbeat was slamming so hard against my ribs I was sure he could feel it under his hand. He waited, held his breath, listened. Then slowly, so slowly I almost missed it, he exhaled in relief. "Jesus," he whispered, a shaky laugh escaping him. That scared me. His grip loosened painfully for a second. "I thought you—" He cut himself off, pressing his forehead to my shoulder again. "I thought you were awake." He sounded terrified at the thought. Not because he didn't want me to know he was here, but because he wasn't ready to see my reaction. To face it. To face me. His voice turned quiet again, softer, vulnerable in a way I had never heard before. "You can't know about this," he whispered into the fabric of my shirt. I can't let you know what I just said." His thumb brushed my stomach again, involuntary, nervous. "I'm not ready for that." It hit me all at once. The weight of his words. He wasn't just confused. He wasn't just drawn to me. He was scared. Because what he felt didn't fit the version of himself he'd always believed in. He thought it was wrong. Or dangerous. Or irreversible. He sighed shakily, trying to calm himself, his breath fanning against the back of my neck. "God, I'm such an idiot," he whispered. "You're asleep, and I'm talking like this. What the hell is wrong with me?" His arm tightened around me again. Not to hold me close, but almost like he needed something solid to keep himself from unraveling. He breathed in slowly, like he was trying to release the storm inside him. "For months," he murmured, "I've been trying to pretend I don't feel something when I'm around you." My chest physically ached. "You walk by me, and my stupid heart acts like—" He stopped, exhaled shakily. "Like you're someone I'm not supposed to want." His thumb brushed my skin again, slower this time, like the movement soothed him. "But then I saw you fall asleep on the couch tonight," he whispered, "and I just broke." He swallowed hard. "You looked so peaceful, so safe." He shifted behind me, pulling me closer in a barely there movement, like he couldn't help it. "And I wanted to be near you. Just near you. I swear I wasn't trying to." He stopped, another shaky sigh leaving him. "God, listen to me. You'd hate me if you knew." His voice cracked, just once. "I don't want you to hate me." Those words were so small, so honest, they hit me like a punch. He burrowed his face into the back of my neck, trying to hide from himself. "You matter to me more than you're supposed to," he whispered, more than I could admit. His hand slid up my side again, tracing a line so gentle it almost wasn't there. "And that scares the hell out of me." The fear in his voice was real, thick, heavy. He wasn't playing, he wasn't joking, he wasn't experimenting. This was someone confronting a truth he'd buried for so long it had finally broken the surface. He held me like I was the only steady thing in his world. But then, something shifted. It was subtle at first. A change in the way he breathed, the slight tremor in his hand disappearing, his body relaxing in a different way. His nose brushed the back of my neck again. Then he whispered, softer, almost like a confession meant only for the dark. "Sometimes I wonder what it would feel like if you held me back." My breath nearly stuttered. I had to force it to stay steady. "I wonder what your hands would feel like on me." His fingers curled slightly against my stomach. "I wonder what it would be like to look into your eyes knowing you feel something too." My chest squeezed so hard it almost hurt to breathe. "I wonder," he paused, trembling, "if you'd kiss me back." It felt like the air was ripped from the room. He swallowed. "But you're asleep," he whispered, "and maybe that's the only reason I can say any of this." His voice shook. "If you were awake, I'd be too afraid." He shifted again, and this time, his lips grazed the back of my shoulder. Not an accident, not a slip, not a graze, a kiss. Soft, barely there, but a kiss. My blood went molten. Evan's breath hitched, like he couldn't believe what he'd just done. "Oh my God," he whispered. His hand tightened on my waist. I shouldn't have done that, but he didn't move away, not even an inch. In fact, he leaned in again, lips brushing the same spot, slower this time, warmer. "I'm sorry," he breathed against my skin. "I just needed to know what it felt like." His forehead pressed gently between my shoulder blades. "I'm so messed up." He stayed like that, holding me, breathing against my shoulder, his lips still tingling from where he kissed me. And that's when it happened. His hand slid up my stomach again, and this time I accidentally let out the tiniest, quietest inhale. Just a soft sound, barely audible. But he heard it, and every muscle in his body froze instantly. "Liam?" Silence. Then, softer, scared, breathless and trembling. "Liam, are you awake?" The second the sound slipped out of me, that tiny, involuntary inhale, the world seemed to stop. Evan's entire body went rigid. His hand halted mid-movement on my stomach. His breath caught in his throat. And for the first time since he'd climbed into my bed, the silence wasn't comforting. It was sharp, cutting, electric. "Liam?" he whispered again. This time it wasn't soft or curious. It was terrified. He didn't pull away. Not yet. But his hand hovered over my skin like he was afraid to touch me again. I could practically feel him replaying every second of the last half hour in his head. Every word he'd whispered. Every confession. Every accidental touch. Every kiss. "Liam!" His voice cracked, barely audible. "Please tell me you didn't hear that." My heart thundered in my chest. I tried. I genuinely tried to stay still, to keep pretending, to give him that illusion of safety a little longer. But my body betrayed me. My breath came out uneven. Just one shaky exhale. That was all it took. He heard it. He felt it. "Oh my God," he breathed, horror flooding his tone. "Oh my God, you're—" He didn't finish because panic slammed into him so fast I felt it ripple through his body. He bolted upright behind me. In one frantic movement, his arm left my waist. His weight shifted off the mattress, and the bed dipped violently as he scrambled backward. "Holy sh... Liam, I'm so sorry." I didn't mean... I thought. His words tumbled out in a mess. Broken, spinning, panicked. I finally rolled onto my back, slowly, deliberately, and found him sitting on the edge of the mattress, shirtless, his hair a mess, his hands gripping the sheets like he needed something to keep him from falling apart. Even in the faint glow from the hallway light, I could see everything. His wide eyes, his flushed cheeks, his trembling hands, the way his chest rose and fell too fast. He looked wrecked, embarrassed, exposed, gutted. He dragged a shaky hand through his hair, whispering harshly to himself. "Shit, shit, shit, shit. Evan," I began, but he cut me off instantly, his voice breaking. "No, please, don't." He turned toward me then, slowly, like he was afraid of what he'd see on my face. His eyes were glassy, not from tears, from fear. Fear of me. Fear of what he'd revealed. Fear of what it meant. "You weren't supposed to know," he whispered. "Any of it." I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. Really looked. And he shook his head, as if that alone made everything worse. He let out a shaky, humorless laugh. "I kissed you," he said under his breath, more to himself than to me. He swallowed hard. "I crossed every line." He pulled his knees up and braced his elbows on them, burying his face in his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice muffled. "I'm so sorry." It physically hurt to watch him crumble like that. So I sat up, slow, steady, making sure not to spook him, and moved toward him. When I reached out and gently touched his shoulder, he flinched, like my hand was fire. "Evan," I said softly. "Look at me." He didn't. He shook his head again, voice breaking on the edges. I can't. Not after what I did. The guilt in his voice was so thick, it almost swallowed the room. I slid closer until my knee brushed his. My hand stayed on his shoulder, grounding him. Evan? I repeated. Quieter this time. Please look at me. After a long moment, heavy, trembling, he finally lifted his head, and the expression on his face nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. He wasn't angry. He wasn't disgusted. He wasn't defiant. He was scared. Truly, deeply scared. His voice trembled when he spoke. I don't know what's happening to me. My chest tightened. I didn't mean to climb into your bed, he whispered. I just wanted to be close to you, and then it got out of control. His eyes flicked to my lips for the briefest second before he forced them away. I didn't want to scare you, he breathed, or hurt you, or make things weird. I was going to leave before you woke up. You weren't supposed to know. He swallowed hard. You weren't supposed to know I... He stopped again, but this time I didn't let the silence stretch. I moved my hand from his shoulder to his jaw, slow, gentle, and guided his face toward mine until his eyes finally met mine again. He froze, completely. Evan, I said quietly, I'm not scared. He stared at me, breathing unevenly. I'm not angry, I continued. His brow tightened. And you didn't hurt me. His eyes flickered in uncertainty. Then I said the one thing he never expected. Evan, I wanted you close too. His breath caught so hard I felt his whole body jolt. He whispered, barely audible. What? I brushed my thumb gently across his jaw. I wanted you here. His lips parted in disbelief. A soft noise escaped him, something between a gasp and a broken exhale. And then he whispered my name like it was something fragile. Liam. All that fear, all that shame, all that confusion. It didn't disappear. But something cracked beneath it, something softer, something real. He leaned in a fraction of an inch without realizing it. Say it again, he whispered. I didn't hesitate. I wanted you close too. His breath trembled. His eyes flicked from mine to my mouth again, and this time he didn't look away. Liam, he whispered, voice shaking. Can I? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to, because for the first time that night, I leaned toward him. The moment I leaned in, everything in the room changed. Evan's breath caught, sharp, almost painful, and his eyes widened just slightly, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. What he had heard was already shocking enough to him, but me moving closer? That was something he hadn't even let himself hope for. He didn't pull away. He didn't breathe. He just stared at me, lips parted, chest rising and falling in small, careful movements like he was afraid the slightest breath would shatter the moment. I stopped just a few inches from him, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath, close enough to see the way the fear in his eyes had started to shift into something else, something softer, something fragile and hopeful. But I didn't close the final distance. I wanted him to make that choice. I wanted him to understand that after everything he'd whispered into my neck, every trembling confession, every touch he thought I'd never feel, I wasn't just reacting. I was choosing him too. Evan, I murmured, you don't have to be afraid of me. He swallowed, hard, his throat bobbing visibly. I'm not afraid of you, he said quietly. I'm afraid of what this means. My heart twisted. I nodded just a little, letting him know I heard him, really heard him. We don't have to define anything right now, I said softly. You don't have to know exactly what you feel or why. We just take one moment at a time. He let out a shaky breath, his voice a whisper. In this moment, what do you want me to do? I didn't touch him more, didn't close the gap, didn't push. Instead, I asked the question I knew mattered most. What do you want, Evan? His gaze flicked to my lips, then back to my eyes, then down again, lingering this time, longer. His breath stuttered. I want... He inhaled shakily. I want something I'm not supposed to want. I felt his knee brush mine. Subtle, barely there, but intentional. When I kissed your shoulder, he whispered, you made a sound. I felt heat crawl up my neck. He noticed. You made a sound. He repeated, more certain this time. That wasn't sleep. I didn't deny it. His hand lifted uncertainly, like he wanted to touch my face but wasn't sure he was allowed to. I watched it hover in the air between us, trembling, hesitant. I leaned into his palm just slightly. And that was all it took. His fingers brushed my jaw, tracing a warm, nervous line from my chin to just below my ear. The gentleness of it nearly made me shiver. You wanted that? He whispered. The truth came out before I could even think. Yes. His breath shook. His hand slid fully to my cheek. His eyes softened in a way I'd never seen before. Then why didn't you wake up? He asked quietly, voice breaking with genuine confusion and longing. I let out a breath that trembled through me. Because I didn't want to scare you, I whispered. I didn't want to rush you. And I didn't want you to regret being honest. His thumb brushed my cheek. Soft. Slow. Reverent. I don't regret a single thing I said, he murmured. I regret that you heard it. Why? His eyes searched mine, his voice cracking. Because now you know how badly I wanted you before I had any right to. My chest tightened painfully. I placed my hand over his. You don't have to earn the right to want someone. He looked away briefly, jaw tense in a way that told me he was fighting himself. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispered. I don't know what this makes me. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I slid a little closer until our knees fully touched, until his hand on my face no longer hovered uncertainly. Then don't worry about tomorrow, I whispered. Just think about right. He exhaled slowly, shakily, like he'd been holding his breath for years. And right now, he murmured, I want to kiss you so badly it hurts. My entire body lit up. But I didn't close the gap. I let him do it. Evan leaned in, painfully slowly, like giving me 100 chances to pull away. His lips hovered an inch from mine, his breath warm, his voice a whisper against my mouth. Tell me if this is wrong, he breathed. It's not. His forehead rested against mine, and for the first time that night, I felt the tension leave his body. Not all of it, but enough for something new to take its place. Hope. He closed that last inch. His lips touched mine. Gently at first, a question more than a kiss. A trembling, hesitant brush of warmth. Testing, searching, almost scared. But when I kissed him back, slow, soft, steady, Evan let out a tiny, broken sound in his throat. A sound like relief, like hunger, like he'd been waiting far too long. He kissed me again, deeper this time, still careful, but with a need that made my heart pound. His hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. Our breaths mixed, warm and uneven. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was real, honest, raw, electric. He pulled back only enough to whisper against my lips, Liam, I don't want to stop. I felt my pulse roar in my ears. You don't have to. His breath hitched. And then he kissed me again. Slower, surer, like he was finally letting himself want me out loud. Like the months of tension, confusion, longing, and fear had finally snapped, leaving only the truth between us. He deepened the kiss, his fingers sliding into my hair, and I leaned into him without hesitation. The room felt warm, still, infinite, like nothing existed outside this moment. And then, Evan whispered against my mouth, voice trembling but certain, Stay with me tonight. Not a command, not a question, a plea, one I would have said yes to 1,000 times over. Evan's words hung between us, fragile and trembling in the dim light spilling from the hallway. Stay with me tonight, he whispered, his forehead resting against mine, his lips still warm from the kiss we'd shared. There was no confusion in his voice now. No panic, no denial, just a quiet, aching honesty. I didn't hesitate. I didn't look away. I didn't question it. "Yeah," I said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." The relief in his exhale hit me like a wave. His shoulders dropped, some tension melting from his body, like he'd been clenching against the world for months. He kissed me again, slower, lingering this time, before he finally eased back just enough to look at me fully. Really look at me. His eyes were soft, open, afraid, but in that way someone is when they care too much. He brushed his thumb across my cheek. "I'm sorry if I freaked you out," he whispered. "You didn't," I said. "You just surprised me," he let out a shaky laugh. "Surprised myself, too." He sat back slightly, knees touching mine, his fingers still tangled with mine like he was afraid to let go. He studied me with this gentle, mesmerized expression, like he was trying to piece together someone he thought he knew but suddenly didn't know well enough. "How long have you, you know?" He gestured vaguely at me, cheeks red. I smiled a little. "Liked you?" He groaned softly. "God, don't say it like that." "But it's the truth." He rubbed a hand over his face. "I don't even know what I am right now." "You don't have to," I said. "Not tonight." He nodded, eyes dropping. Then his voice softened. "Do you hate that I climbed into your bed?" I reached out, sliding my hand back into his hair. "Evan, I didn't move away, did I?" That made him freeze. "Remember. Replay." Slowly, he shook his head. "No, you leaned into me. And now I'm leaning in again." I pushed his hair back from his forehead. He closed his eyes briefly at the touch. A soft, involuntary reaction that made something deep in my chest warm. "I thought you were going to shove me off the bed," he murmured. I raised an eyebrow. "You kissed my shoulder." He winced. "Yeah, about that." "I liked it," I said simply. His eyes snapped open, gaze locking with mine, something hungry and hopeful flickering there. "You did?" "Evan, I didn't just tolerate you being close. I wanted it. I've wanted you for a long time." He stared at me, stunned and quiet, like the words didn't feel real yet. And then something in him broke open, softening, loosening, and he leaned forward until his forehead pressed gently against my chest. His hand slid around my waist, almost hesitant at first, then firmer when I wrapped my arms around him too. He buried his face against me and whispered, "I didn't know how to tell you." "You just did," I murmured into his hair. We stayed like that for a long moment, warm, steady, breathing together in a way that made everything else fade out. Eventually, he exhaled and pulled back just enough to see my face. "Can we lie down? Together?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. "Come on." We shifted under the blankets, both of us moving slowly, like neither of us wanted to break the moment. Evan slid up against me, this time with zero hesitation, his arm draping over my waist, his chest pressing into my back in a way that felt protective and intimate in all the best ways. But this time, I didn't pretend to sleep. I reached down and intertwined our fingers. He let out the softest sound, part relief, part something deeper. After a moment, he whispered into my neck, "I feel safe like this." I squeezed his hand. "Me too." He nuzzled into the space below my ear, warm breath ghosting over my skin. "What happens tomorrow?" he asked quietly. I thought about it. The uncertainty, the conversations to come, the slow unraveling of his fears and confusion, the shift that had already started and the one that was coming. "We figure it out," I whispered. "Together." He relaxed at that, his arm tightening around me. "Okay," he murmured. "Together." The room settled into quiet again. Not the quiet from earlier, thick with tension and secrets, but a soft quiet, a safe quiet, the kind that wrapped around us like a blanket. After a long moment, Evan whispered one last thing before sleep finally crept into his voice. "I'm glad you weren't really asleep." I turned my head just enough to brush a kiss against his temple. "Me too," I whispered. His breath hitched, a tiny, happy sound, and he held me closer, his body fitting perfectly against mine. And just like that, the night that started with fear, confusion, and hesitation ended with honesty, warmth, and the beginning of something neither of us could deny anymore. Something real, something ours.